Hello, can you see me? Cool. All right. So thanks for having me. As a second-year student, I know just enough about my craft to be plagued by the potentially rational fear that I'm just never going to cut it as a designer when I grow up. So I wanted to explore this area, and I decided to do this by looking at the things that I've written down in my life. I am an extensive note taker. I write about my classes, non-academic lectures, and even just snippets of conversation that I hear and that are lost in common spaces. And when you sort of sit down to read maybe 2 years worth of ideas in a concentrated form, you start to notice that everyone is sort of starting to say the same thing. These disparate fields, computer science, design, theater, they're all pointing towards the same thing. And so I thought I would pull out some of these ideas and talk about them. And when I did this, I really had no idea how short 20 seconds was, so I'm really sorry about the whirlwind speed of this. I'm also going to adjust the mic. So Ira Glass of This American Life fame has a great series on storytelling on YouTube where he says you go into creative fields because you have really good taste, but you make really bad work for the first couple years because you just haven't made enough stuff to know how to make good things. And I think this prefaces everything that I've been wondering about. I still don't even know if I know how to kern things properly, and like 3 months ago I didn't even know what kerning was. It's how you put spaces between letters when you're setting type. And learning these things, in immersing myself in design's language, it takes a lot of time. And so one thing I've learned is that you just have to learn to wait and learn to kind of be okay with the process that it takes time to acclimate to a new environment. And so there's this exercise that everyone in the School of Design does. It's about cropping letter forms, and that's an example of one that I've done. And it's a really simple idea. It's to crop letter forms to distill the characteristic parts of a typeface, but executing it is difficult. I mean, how much is too much? How much is enough? Is your composition sitting well? I mean, there are a lot of questions you need to ask. And so I need to give myself the permission to make bad work, and I need to give myself the permission to learn how to make choices. And this whole choices thing is kind of very tricky because, design is not about evoking the grand idea of everything. As a designer, I need to choose specific aspects of an idea to roll with and to explore. And so last year we made these stools out of single sheets of cardboard, and the only reason that I had sort of mild success was because I chose one shape, a triangle, to iterate further forms with. But I don't think I could really justify this decision. I actually ended up compromising the stability of my form in order to have the planes bend in space. And I think that justifying limitations is kind of one of the places where designers contradict themselves, because choice is kind of, it engages the question of the quantifiable legitimacy of design as a profession, because on one end we have design thinking asking and hoping that somewhere in our profession we are a codifiable soft science. But then on the other end of design thinking, there's the knowledge that people are fickle, and then at the end of the day, if a design works, it works. And I find it interesting that in theater, which is a field that strives for the same thing that we do, to create a form for a visual or temporal or spatial experience, it knows its legitimacy and it thrives on its sometimes superfluousness, but in discussing design, we spend a lot of time trying to prove that we're not just ornamentation. And so I kind of am wondering about this question, how do you know when you're decorating? But I think so I think it has to do with feeling, which is kind of unquantifiable. Working on something for too long and just making marks for the sake of making marks feels a little bit unjustified. But then on the other hand, exploration is all about just doing things. So I have this conflict, because I think a lot of my best work happens when I'm just making shapes and engaging space. But then I think this contradicts with the ideas of systems and hierarchies that I've been learning in class. And the thing is I don't think that design is all willy-nilly. I do fundamentally believe that a grid is the underlying syntax of visual language, but just as the syntax of English is constantly broken in speech, systems of design are not hard and fast. And so I really think the question is about appropriateness. It's not a form versus function debate. The form of something is the function of something, is the content of something, and that's all wrapped up in its context. And people don't experience design as component parts. We experience and respond to them as wholes. So even though we incorporate research and product testing into a way to quantify our experience, if something's the right decision, then it's the right decision. And this is kind of really scary when you're kind of a young designer, because you can worry and deconstruct a piece of design all that you want, but you can't really account for the responses of others, and others are who you're designing for. And returning to my whole idea of self-doubt, I know that making good work comes with just making a lot of work, making iterations, making failed attempts, and just having the tenacity to move forward to learn more things. And I don't think that we as a profession are made of strict guidelines, but I really worry about the uncontrollable things in my life, like clients and the audience, and even just being in the right place at the right time. And I chose to study design because I thought it would teach me a framework in which to engage the world around me, ultimately for the purpose of serving the goals of others. And a year and a half ago I wrote, I must think deeply about my work, and what I meant was I need to just kind of, whatever I'm doing, I need to know the reason why. But saying it now, I must think deeply about my work, I'm really asking about the content. I need to think about my content, because I thought that on some level being a designer meant that I could escape talking and saying something, that I could say things for other people, but that's just kind of silly, because being a designer means contextualizing and expressing things the way I want to express them, and so I need to know what I'm going to say. So I'm leaving you with this final project that I created with two designers, Maya Irvin and Allison Tran at my school, and it's entirely about content. We made these books that explore moths with all kinds of crazy objects in them, including a set of moth parts that turned into a kite. So in doing this, we had two interactions with the book, that of reading the book and exploring its parts in book form, and then engaging the outdoor space with the kite. And we took ownership of our content. We really chose the form that we thought would be engaging and rewarding, and the process was immensely draining and greatly rewarding. And we knew what we wanted to say, and we said it. And because of that, it was kind of, I think this is one of the stronger pieces that I've ever worked on. And so I finally want to leave you with some E. Cummings, because poets can probably say things better than anyone else. I've been asking a lot of questions in this presentation, and I'm not entirely sure about my conclusions, but I'm probably heading in some kind of direction, and life is about questions. So I think if we all, sort of strive to interact positively with the things around us, we'll be surrounded with beautiful answers. Thank you.